Welcome to Measuring Success Right, the official student-led podcast of the Marriott Student Review, where we connect the leaders of tomorrow with the issues of today.
Welcome to another episode of the Measuring Success Right podcast. My name is Stuart.
My name is Grace.
We're your co-hosts today, and we're excited. We're lucky to be joined today by Annie Kennedy. Annie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Annie is an alumna of BYU, and we wanted to break the ice a little bit and get to know her by just asking, what is your favorite memory at BYU?
Yeah, that is a great question. Two things came to mind. One, in the Marriott School, I have this memory of being in Case Dice's class for Accounting 200. He's a legend. I'm pretty sure he's not on the faculty anymore, but he always would wear Hawaiian shirts, and it always made my day, and it made me just love accounting because of Case Dice and his Hawaiian shirt. The other favorite memory of BYU in general, this kind of exposes how much I like free stuff, but getting free food and free swag almost every day. I was always on the hunt for the free food. And I feel like the Marriott School actually had lots of that, lots of booths with free stuff. And I was definitely that person looking for it. Yeah, I probably fed half of my meals were free.
That's awesome. I know how that goes. People say that at the Marriott School, you can, never have to cook dinner for yourself with all the club events and info sessions you can go to. Thank you, Annie, for giving us that introduction. I'll give you a more formal introduction now that we've broken the ice. Annie graduated from BYU, and she now works at BambooHR and as a senior account expansion executive there. She's also starting a family, and I know her on a personal level. I'm actually her cousin, and so Annie's been a good example to me. We're excited to interview her today.
Thank you.
Yeah, before we get started, just go back on your favorite memory. The table always has some food around. I love getting some donuts before I head to class. When we look at your background, you majored in family studies and minored in business. Was there a reason why you chose to pursue this minor?
Great question. When I was a sophomore at BYU, I very intentionally decided to add that business minor. And here's the reason why. I knew my passion was about people, and that's why I wanted to do family studies. It really aligned with everything I love, and I wanted to do that research and learn about families. But then I really wanted to choose a minor that would use a different part of my brain and just kind of give me some variety in my course load, expose me to new topics, and look good on my resume, give that variety, like I said. And so I came across the business minor, and it did look pretty long, but my major was pretty short, so I thought it was a perfect combo. I just wanted to use both sides of my brain and have a variety in my studies.
I think that's a good plug for the business minor for a student who's considering it. We know that you ended up getting a job out of graduating in business. Do you feel that your choice to take a job in business was affected by the fact that you got a minor in business?
I really do think so. I think spending a few years in those classes piqued my interest just enough to realize how cool the business world was. Ultimately, what made my decision is I pursued the family studies route, and a lot of people in that major go into being a therapist. So that's something I thought I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a therapist, but the closer it came to graduation, I worked at a job with troubled teens. It was super emotionally taxing, and I realized as much as I love helping these people, I don't think it's a good fit for me. Obviously, business was enough on my radar. I had done the minor, and it was my dad who really prompted me in that direction. He said, you could go work at a software company. And at first I was like, I don't know anything about coding or finance. And he said, no, they need people who are good with people, which you are. He really started me in that direction. And I looked up online, what's the best company to work for in Utah? BambooHR popped up. So I said, okay, I don't know what this company is, but I want to work there. And I'm still there today, 4.5 years later. Ultimately, I don't think the minor is why I changed my plan, but it did help me when my plan changed.
And that's comforting to students right now who are trying to figure out what they should major in. Too often we think, what I choose to major in, that's the job I'm going to have and that's what I'm going to retire as. Like, you're just stuck with whatever you choose to major in. But that's very interesting that you were able to learn, you were to study family studies, develop your people skills, and now you have a great career in a company that maybe you didn't start out thinking you would be.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then just building off of that, because after graduating, you went to HR, that field, right? As someone that didn't necessarily major in human resources or business, but with a minor, how did you put yourself out there? Was it an advantage for you to have another major, or is that kind of like disadvantage? And how did you navigate through that recruiting process?
Great question. It was very intimidating to apply to a software company that had never been on my radar. So I definitely was intimidated at first. Right from the start, I was in such great hands with a really awesome recruiter who saw me for me. And I've learned a lot of recruiters at a lot of companies are like this. They're so good at their job and seeing who you are and where you would potentially fit in the company. It started off on the right foot that way. And I found that what they were really looking for is just who I was and how I would interact with their company culture and with the customers at BambooHR. I was starting with a customer-facing role, and I'm still customer-facing. So they cared a lot less about, certifications I had or anything, but really just like my motivations, if I was a hard worker, and me proving that I could communicate well. I do think the business minor was the cherry on top that branded me in a better way. It put that stamp of approval from the Marriott School on my resume, and that gave me a little boost of confidence. I would throw that plug in interviews and say, yeah, although I've worked in these other fields, I obviously have an interest in business. I've taken these courses that taught me the lingo, et cetera. Like, it did give me just enough of confidence, and I think it helped them take me seriously too, that I really wanted to be there. I was grateful for that minor, or else I think I would have been even more intimidated than I already was.
Right. It's also very interesting to hear that sometimes we call them the soft skills, the ability to work with somebody, the ability to listen to someone, the ability to work with other people, and the impact you have on the culture of a company. Those are things that they saw in you. I think that is important for students all over at BYU and the Marriott School to be thinking about. BYU actually gives you a lot of opportunities to practice those people skills.
Right.
And I'm sure you got that a little bit from the minor, but also from your major in family studies.
True. I did talk about that a lot. I don't want to underemphasize how great my major really set me up for success too. And just little jobs I had here and there at BYU. I worked at the MTC, and I found that coming up a lot in my interviews where I mentioned, I'm comfortable standing in front of a group, training people, and that helped them know I'd be good at training customers and working with their customer base.
Interesting. That's cool to hear because a lot of students here at BYU work at the Missionary Training Center, the MTC. So it's very comforting for them to hear. Okay, so we've talked about your time at BYU, applying for BambooHR. You started at BambooHR and you were an HR project manager. How long have you been there?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. Okay. And we know that you are no longer doing what you were doing at first. Can you just walk us through what was it like starting and what made you transition from HR to sales?
So I started as an HR project manager, which essentially meant I was working on projects with companies, helping them implement the software. And I'd work with them for a couple weeks or months to give them a personalized experience. I really loved that role. I was helping people. And I learned the software super well. I could talk about every aspect of it. After about a year of that, I kind of just felt eager for growth, to try something new, and decided to take a leap into sales, which might sound kind of unconventional, but I heard about this niche group at Bamboo. I'll explain more later, but we are part of the sales team, but we sell products and upgrades to current customers. And so I thought, wow, that sounds like a great fit for me because I'm used to working with customers. I love working with people who already love our product. But I've always wanted to try sales. I've had people tell me before, oh, you'd be good at sales. And I thought that was just knocking doors, which I didn't really it never happened. I didn't never do that any summer. But I was like, this kind of sounds nice. I get to keep working with customers, but I get to try my hand at sales. Usually they just hire people with a sales background, but I hope I did a good job of selling myself in those interviews in a way where I was like, trust me, I know I can sell this product because I know it front to back and I know how to really click with our customers. So I do think I can sell it to people.
I love how, even for both of your roles, it's still so people focused. And that goes back to your family studies, right? You just love people, and I love that. But let's say for someone that is interviewing for that role that you have, because you really sold yourself. How would you say recommend someone to sell themselves? Or I guess using your sales expertise, how do you market yourself to a company?
I don't think I'm perfect at that, but I think people are afraid to be confident in interviews. A lot of people are apologetic or like they kind of just walk into it assuming they're not going to be the person they choose. But I just think being confident in yourself and what makes you unique and not being afraid that you might not fit all of the criteria on the list, I think that goes a long way. If you can also communicate that clearly. I had an interview a long time ago and I had someone give me the comment. They're like, wow, I can tell you have a lot to offer, but you're kind of rambling a little bit. So can you just condense what you just said into a few points? I've never forgotten that every time I've interviewed for a promotion, et cetera, that you need to be able to give a very concise overview of who you are, why you'd be good at the job. Be confident about that. That would be my advice. And don't focus on what you don't have. Of course, they always ask in an interview, oh, what weaknesses would you bring to the job? Think of those in advance and be strategic about what weaknesses you share and be prepared to explain how, even if it is a weakness, you can still grow on that.
So obviously it worked and you got the job as a senior account expansion executive. Am I saying the title right?
Right.
Okay. And what does that mean?
Yeah. Okay. We can break it down. So you've probably heard the word account executive. That's the classic term for a sales representative who closes deals. I am an account executive, but there's two other words in there. Expansion, meaning I help with expansion efforts at our company. So I help upsell customers, help them buy more than they already have. I am a senior representative, which means I work with Bamboo's biggest companies. And that was a promotion I got after starting in sales for a while. From hitting my numbers, I was able to rise up to be a senior account executive.
Now, with that, do you like your decision? Because you went into sales, but you didn't have previous experience in it. Do you feel like you want to go back to HR, or you're like, I actually really love sales, I want to keep going up? How did you make that differentiation of which one suits you more?
Yeah, well, frankly, I do think sales suits me more than my original position. In my original position, I felt I was kind of doing the same thing over and over, teaching companies how to use the software. And it was comfortable, but it didn't challenge me very much. Whereas I really thrive in the challenge of sales. Obviously, it has its highs and lows. We always talk about how it's kind of a roller coaster. You never know how many deals you're going to close each month. And that can be hard and stressful. So I do think there's like a con there that does weigh on you at times during your day-to-day work. But to me, the benefits outweigh that. Just how rewarding it is to make a sale. I like the challenge along the way, working with customers. What is really best for them? Is this product even a good fit for them? And if it is, how can I help them sell it to their CEO? It's more of a challenge, and I really like that.
Annie, you and I were talking before the interview about how integrity is something that comes up in sales. It's important to have integrity, and it's something that needs to be practiced. Integrity is one of the values of the Marriott School of Business. We would love to ask you more about it, and if you could explain how integrity fits in with sales and just in your day at work.
Yeah. Speaking of integrity being one of the values of the Marriott School, I just want to give a shout out to all the faculty and professors in the Marriott School on how well they emulate that value and the other ones. I just feel like when you're in those business classes, you can tell that those professors are business professionals who really live, for example, the principle of integrity. All the case studies they share and their experiences from their careers, they have a very high standard of the way they work with people and do business. And I just feel like they set such a great example of how important it is to keep your values when you're in business. And I don't know, just thinking through that. But in sales particularly, I think integrity is very key. It's super easy to face a situation in my day-to-day where it would be easy to kind of bend the truth when a customer's saying, okay, so you're telling me if I buy this, it's going to solve all of these problems. Of course, the gut reaction could be like, of course it will. But I find myself in situations all the time where I need to balance my own enthusiasm about the product and wanting to close the deal with being transparent and honest. Like, maybe this is not a good fit for you. And that can be hard to do when money and metrics are on the line. But yeah, I just try to lean into that principle of integrity and honesty every day and make sure I'm doing the right thing for the customer at all times. And then I have a really clean conscience. I don't ever worry that I missold someone because I'm always trying to have integrity in the deals I work.
I love that because one of the things I hear constantly in the school is that recruiters, when they view BYU students, we have a reputation of integrity, right? We are honest. We show our loyalty. And I just think that's something that as students, as alumni, as staff, we just show as an entity. And it also does reflect on what we value. And sometimes it's hard to balance sales integrity when you have to do metrics, right? When you have to hit certain goals, certain deals, beyond numerical goals or benchmarks in your professional career. How do you measure success in your life?
Yeah, I think for me, success is simply trying the best I can. If I know I'm doing the best I can and doing what's in my control and being consistent at those things, then to me that equals success. Obviously, there's like roadblocks in our life that change our plan or make it hard. But as long as I'm doing everything I can control, treat people well, be a good person, do good at work, I try to remember that is success. Even if I don't have a perfect sales month, that doesn't mean I'm not good at my job. Or if I have an off day, that doesn't mean I'm not a good person. I just need to try my best. I think success to me is doing what I can. It's fun to look back on the past and say, okay, where was I a year ago or 2 years ago? It always surprises me how far I've come. Sometimes on the day-to-day, you feel like life is stagnant. You're kind of doing the same motions. And does that really mean success? But then if you look back, you can connect the dots and be like, wow, look at all these great things I've accomplished by doing the best I can. You can see growth in your family or work or all these different areas. And so I think that's important to reflect as well. And then you can see that success better, because sometimes day to day, it's easy to not feel successful. And so That's what I'd say. Do the best I can means I'm successful, and really just being introspective and thinking about my growth.
Thanks, Annie. That applies to all of our listeners, especially students. We have grades, and those are probably similar to having numerical goals and benchmarks in a job. Sometimes getting a bad grade on a homework assignment can really ruin the day for some people. I've experienced that sometimes. The title of this podcast is How Do You Measure Success? I think another way we can look at it is how do you not measure your life by failures? I would love to hear more specifically, and we can talk about the example of you at work with benchmarks. How do you measure your success without letting the numbers and benchmarks take over that entire definition?
Well, I have a prime example of this from last month. Last month, it was just kind of a slower sales month across the board for our revenue team. I found myself panicking at the end of the month because I didn't think I was going to hit my quota. And I've had that fear before, but it always works out. But unfortunately, last month, I lost my almost 2-year streak of always hitting my sales quota. And that shook me, like it made me question. So this is very recent question. Am I even good at my job? I never don't hit my quota. And it was hard. It's like getting a bad grade on a test feeling. But 2 years, I hadn't gotten a bad grade for 2 years. And then I did. And I felt like I got an F. But the funny thing is I was only about $70 away from my quota. But I basically got it.
You basically got it.
Honestly, I have to say, I'm still trying to recover from that incident where I'm like, why did that not go well? My manager has helped me a lot. She has been unfazed by the fact that I didn't hit my quota. I've been like, what happened? And she's like, you are so good at your job. And this doesn't change your value or all the consistent hard work you put in every day. You did the same great things as you have for years. And so I finally do feel settled about it because I remembered my definition of success. When I look back on last month, I did my best work. I did all the normal things to try to close deals, and I put in great effort. It didn't work out for hitting my quota, but that's okay. I'm successful. You can probably tell I'm still grappling with it. And yeah, so this is something we all have to deal with. I'm grateful just to have an outside perspective of my manager being like, you are successful. Don't worry about this. It's just a one-off. You're good at your job. Just, everyone, it's a very common feeling to get beat down when something doesn't go your way. And maybe sometimes hearing from someone else that validation that you are still a good person, you are good at what you do, even if you failed at a test or hitting your quota, that really helped me. I needed that motivation from her. And time. Of course, I was upset about it for a few days, and now just moving on, doing all I can this month, and that's all I can do.
Yeah, and that what you said there at the end is, I think, so great. Doing all we can this month, moving on, taking a step back, and realizing, it's all going to be okay, and then just doing your best. Thank you. That applies to all of us, really. Thank you so much, Annie. And
You're welcome.
I know in this interview we've focused on your academic and professional career. But I know if we had many more hours, you could share a lot about all the great things you've done with family and friends and your other spheres of life.
I recently read this talk, and it was from a church leader, and it was about failing successfully. And it's that term is like you being able to view failure as a part of growth. And that is something that's super important sometimes. When we see failure, we see that, okay, wow, you put yourself down and it's like, okay, I can't do anything. But it's important to view failure as something required to achieve success. And I love that you have someone outside telling you, it's okay, let's look back. And I think everyone in their life needs someone like that. And that's why it's also important. People emphasize the importance like mentors or just having someone that you can trust or you can go to in meet hard times.
Yeah, I love that. So cool. I'll have to go listen to that talk.
Yeah, thanks, Grace. I love that. Annie, is there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap up?
It's a great opportunity. My final thoughts. Yeah, thanks for letting me have this time to reflect on my journey. How, like you're talking about, Grace, all the failures are part of growth. And I just feel like this has been so good for me to think about my growth and the ups and downs and how my career has developed. But yeah, I just want to leave with also just saying good luck to all of you students. The future can feel daunting and it is scary to apply to big companies, but just know it's going to work out. Be yourself, have that confidence that you can be a great fit for different roles, even if you don't feel like you have all the experience. That's certainly how I felt. Really good things will happen when you take a leap of faith, have some confidence. And it's okay. Also, if it doesn't work out, that's okay too. Always, another path will always open up. Best of luck to all of you. And you're in a great place to be at BYU and the Marriott School. I cherish my time there. And sometimes I wish I could go back. Don't miss homework, but I do really miss the community of being on campus and the spirit on campus and everything. So those would be my final thoughts.
Thanks, Annie. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for being our special guest. I learned a lot from you. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Measuring Success Right podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Measuring Success Right podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss the next interview. The Measuring Success Right podcast is a production of the Marriott Student Review. This episode was produced by Stuart Bird, Allison Pope, Sarah Bird, Taya Wolf Hobson, and Jackson Berthold. Sound design and audio engineering by James Call. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast do not reflect the official views or opinions of Brigham Young University or The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.